This morning, at exactly 6:47 a.m. local time, the ground beneath 500,000 people began to shake. Not gently, not subtly, but with enough force to rattle windows, crack plaster, and send thousands of residents rushing to their doorways. After 8 days of eerie silence, Campi Flegrei, Europe's most dangerous supervolcano, has woken up. And what our monitoring systems are showing right now is deeply concerning. While you were sleeping, seismic sensors across the Pozzuoli area registered a sharp spike in earthquake activity. Multiple tremors, shallow depth, felt across Naples. But here's what makes this different from previous swarms: the silence that came before it. For over a week, this volcanic system went quiet. Too quiet. And anyone familiar with bradyseismic calderas knows that silence isn't peace. It's pressure building. It's the system reorganizing. It's the calm that precedes something bigger. Right now, thermal drones flying over Solfatara crater are capturing temperature readings that have scientists at Italy's National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology on high alert. The main fumarole, the volcanic vent that's been monitored for decades, just hit 182.8 degrees Celsius. That's not a typo. We're talking about temperatures hot enough to boil water twice over, venting directly from the subsurface, high up on the crater wall, in a location that should be relatively cool. Thermal imaging revealed a massive heat anomaly. A section of rock face measuring 113.9 degrees Celsius. To put that in perspective, that's hotter than boiling water, at an elevation where temperatures should be ambient. This isn't normal heat dispersion. This is deep volcanic heat finding new pathways to the surface. This is the signature of pressurized gases forcing their way through fractures in the rock. This is what geologists call a precursor signal. At the Pisciarelli fumarole, just north of the main crater, another troubling pattern is emerging. The mud pool that scientists have monitored for years is shrinking. Water levels dropping. And the temperature? 103.3 degrees Celsius. Rising. When mud levels decrease in an active hydrothermal system, it doesn't mean the system is cooling down. It means internal pressure is increasing. Let's be absolutely clear about what we're dealing with here. Campi Flegrei is not a mountain. It's a massive volcanic caldera, a collapsed magma chamber spanning over 100 square kilometers. It sits directly beneath one of the most densely populated urban areas in Europe, the city of Naples. The towns of Pozzuoli, Baicoli, and Agnano. 500,000 people live inside the red zone, the area that would be directly impacted by any significant volcanic event. This is not Vesuvius, the iconic So-1 everyone recognizes. This is something far more unpredictable. Campi Flegrei doesn't erupt from a single peak. It erupts from anywhere within the caldera. And its last eruption, in 1538, created an entirely new mountain, Monte Nuovo, in just 48 hours. Imagine that. A mountain born in 2 days, from a field. Without warning, today's earthquakes, the thermal spikes, the rising fumarole temperatures, they're all telling us the same thing. Something is changing beneath the surface. The question isn't whether Campi Flegrei is active. The RIIT monitoring station, positioned at the heart of the deformation zone in Pozzuoli, has recorded something extraordinary over the past 30 days. Ground uplift. Continuous. Measurable. We're talking about 2.5 centimeters per month. Now, you might think 2.5 centimeters doesn't sound like much, but when you're talking about an entire section of Earth's crust rising at that rate, when you're talking about hundreds of square kilometers of land being pushed upward by forces originating 3 to 5 kilometers below the surface, that's massive. That's the kind of deformation that fractures buildings. That cracks roads, that changes coastlines, and here's where it gets even more critical. In SAR satellite data, Interferometric synthetic aperture radar, for those unfamiliar, is showing us that the center of this uplift isn't even on land. It's offshore, just beyond the Pozzuoli harbor. The deformation bullseye is underwater, which means the source of pressure, whatever is pushing this land upward, is directly beneath the Gulf of Pozzuoli, beneath the very waters where fishing boats operate daily, beneath the ferry routes that connect these islands. Over 1,500 earthquakes have struck this region in the last month alone. Not over a year, not over several months, 30 days. 1,500 seismic events. Most of them shallow, between 2 and 4 kilometers deep, clustering right above what seismic tomography shows us is a highly fractured zone. A network of cracks in the rock, where pressurized fluids and gases are forcing their way upward. Now here's the question you need to ask yourself. What is causing this? What force is powerful enough to lift an entire section of coastline, generate thousands of earthquakes, and superheat rock deep underground? The answer is hydrothermal fluids, magmatic gases, carbon dioxide, steam. Whoa! Superheated water. All of it trapped under immense pressure, searching for weak points in the overlying rock. The fumaroles we monitor, Solfatara and Pisciarelli, they're not just steam vents, they're release valves. They're the visible manifestation of what's happening kilometers below. And when those temperatures spike, when mud levels drop, when new heat anomalies appear on crater walls at high elevations, it tells us one thing with absolute certainty. The pressure is building. The system is evolving. Here's what I want you to consider. Have you ever felt an earthquake where you live? Have you ever stood in your home and felt the ground move beneath you? Now imagine feeling that every single day, multiple times a day. Imagine your children asking you why the pictures on the wall keep tilting. Why cracks keep appearing in the ceiling? Would you stay? Would you leave? And if you left, where would you go? Walk through the streets of Pozzuoli today, and you'll see something that should never become normal. Families photographing cracks in their walls, not for insurance claims, not for repairs, but to document the changes happening week by week. Children who've grown up knowing the difference between a magnitude 2.0 and a 3.0 earthquake just by how it feels. Parents who keep emergency bags packed by the door. Always ready, always uncertain. The port of Pozzuoli, a critical maritime hub for this entire region, has reported boats running aground during low tide. Why? Because the seafloor is rising. The harbor depth is decreasing. What was once navigable water is becoming shallow. Ferry schedules are being adjusted. Fishing routes are changing, and every captain who works these waters knows exactly what's causing it. Schools in the red zone now conduct earthquake drills monthly. Not yearly, monthly, because the children need to know what to do when the shaking starts during class. Teachers have been trained to recognize the signs of structural damage, to evacuate quickly, to keep students calm even when they themselves are terrified. Scientists are monitoring your neighborhood with drones and seismographs. Would you feel safe? Would you sleep well at night? Or would you lie awake wondering if tonight is the night everything changes? So what are scientists actually watching for? What are the specific thresholds that would trigger an evacuation order? Because right now, despite everything we've just discussed, Campi Flegrei remains at yellow alert level. Yellow, not orange, not red. Yellow means heightened surveillance. It means increased monitoring. But it doesn't mean imminent eruption, and that's where the complexity lies. The official alert system is based on multiple criteria: ground deformation rates, earthquake frequency and magnitude, gas composition changes, fumarole temperature trends. Let's talk about Monte Nuovo. In 1938, the last time Campi Flegrei erupted. Historical records tell us that residents noticed changes for weeks beforehand. ground shaking, water wells drying up. No thermal cameras, no GPS stations measuring ground deformation. They had their observations, their instincts, and many of them survived because they recognized something was fundamentally wrong, and they left before the eruption began. Today we have technology those people could never have imagined. We can measure ground movement down to the millimeter. We can analyze gas composition in real time. We can detect earthquakes too small for humans to feel. Know how you would communicate with family members if cell networks became overloaded. Keep important documents in a waterproof bag. Keep emergency supplies accessible. Water, food, medications, flashlights, battery-powered radio. A tsunami zone. Because the lesson of Campi Flegrei isn't just about one caldera in southern Italy, it's about preparedness. It's about respecting the power of geological forces. It's about understanding that the earth beneath us is not static. The thermal anomalies we documented today, rising temperatures, the changing mud levels, they're all pieces of a larger puzzle, and we don't yet know what that puzzle will look like when it's complete. So I'll leave you with this final question, and I want you to answer honestly in the comments below. If you lived in Pozzuoli, knowing everything you now know, would you stay or would you leave? There's no right answer, but there is an honest one. If this information matters to you, if you want to stay updated on Campi Flegrei and volcanic hazards worldwide, subscribe now. Because when the next chapter of this story unfolds, you'll want to know about it immediately.